Hey guys, this is Greg Denning, and you are in the School of Awesome Sauce, where I share with you amazing stories and strategies to help you live an extraordinary life. Good morning, my friends. Oh man, it's a beautiful day. I'm actually outside watching the sunrise through the trees here, and it's one of those peaceful summer mornings that you long for in the winter, right? When you're like, oh, where's that summer morning? But it's one of those summer mornings where it's just so calming and so settling, so powerful and so beautiful. And it's so still. Can you feel it? You might even be able to hear the cicadas in the trees here. They're just kind of making their peaceful little sound. But it's one of those heavenly mornings, which is an absolutely perfect setting for what I want to talk about today. Because as we go through life, it's really common to, bump into people and things and issues and ourselves. And inevitably that causes emotional pain. And that's, for most people, that's a part of the journey, sometimes a regular part of the journey. But what's interesting is so few people know how to handle it well and what to do with it, right? And so I think it's fair to say that we all experience emotional pain, and we've talked about the emotions, right? In earlier podcasts, I've talked about the power of the emotional center, and it literally is our power plant for life. And we've talked about how the vast majority of the decisions we make in life are actually emotional. We think they're logical. We think even people, those of us who are like very thoughtful and very logical, even a lot of men are real, just thinking with their heads, and women, a lot of women are more emotionally driven. I know I'm generalizing there, but and those of us who are really logical, but again, a lot of our decisions are emotional, and a lot of our experiences in life are emotional, and a lot of what we do is powered by emotions, right? I recently met with some extremely driven businessmen, and when you settle down and say, hey, what's up? What's driving you? What's that fierce drive? Even very often there's this emotional catalyst, something that happened when they were young, something so this fear, this insecurity of not having enough, or having this definition in their head somewhere from some experience or something about what it means to be successful, and this insatiable emotional drive to get there. Right, so I wanted to talk today about what do we do with that? What do you do with emotional pain? And a lot of people experience emotional pain from something that happened in their childhood, something their parents said or did not do, some terrible experience they had, or think about this one, some big mistake that we've made, right? It causes a lot of emotional pain. Some fear, some insecurity. That one's really predominant, like an insecurity that we might have around something that either we've come, some belief we have about ourselves, or about our life, or about other people, and how maybe we don't fit in, we don't belong, we don't measure up, just our own inadequacies. You get what I'm saying here? So, like, as I list these out, you guys were all like, "Oh yeah, yep, that one too, and that one," and we just experience a lot of emotional pain. I know I did. And I experienced a lot of emotional pain. And if you listen to my earlier episodes and kind of my journey and story, you know my story with emotional pain and hurt and experiences where I like extreme anger at really at first the things that other people had done, decisions they had made that negatively impacted my life, right? And stupid decisions that I had made that negatively impacted my life or negatively impacted other people's lives or were just plain stupid, right? Have any of you ever made a stupid decision? And like that just, it torments you. In fact, on that note, I was studying with my son this morning in the scriptures, and we came across this one line in Isaiah. It says, "There is no peace to the wicked." Now, statements like that are super misunderstood, and that's some of the problems that cause problems in religion and all kinds of stuff, man. We won't get into that. That's maybe another day. But that line struck me about this idea that I wanted to share today. It's been on my mind for a while, and I wanted to share it. It's that same thing. It's like when we do wrong things, right? And I'm talking about the common denominator wrong things that we can all agree on. Like, yeah, that's just wrong. When we make wrong decisions against ourselves or against other people, when we do something cruel and thoughtless, when we do something that just violates our own conscience and violates the principles of right and wrong and goodness and just being good people, when we do something that's just vile and foul and filthy and just totally inappropriate, what happens, and here's my point, like this is my point, like what happens emotionally? What happens emotionally when you do something that just, I'm trying to articulate this so we really sense it and feel it. I think we all have this inner compass about in this drive. I think that's just in us. It's in our DNA. It's in our spirit. It's in our soul. Something that for me I call it the upward reach. Right? It's from that poem. Chief of all thy wondrous works, supreme of all thy plan, thou hast placed an upward reach into the heart of man. It's like this. We just have this upward reach. We have this in us, in our souls, in there. We just have this drive to be better, to be our best selves. And I've seen it everywhere around the world, all across countries and cultures and nations and traditions and races, like just this human desire to be good. And when we violate that, we feel it and it torments us. And inside we get this mental and emotional and spiritual suffering and pain. Now, and I guess here's where I want to go. Like, what do we do with emotional pain that is caused by our own actions or caused by the actions of others or caused just by life just being life, right? What do you do with emotional pain? And man, it would be so fun if we were all together. And you guys, like, I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. We went and toured a venue a couple days ago where we're going to be hosting retreats, and we're going to start doing more and more retreats. We're going to do retreats for couples. I'm going to start doing retreats for young adults. We were just talking about that with a few people. And we're going to do. I'm doing my camps for youth. We have our first one, not our first one. We have another one coming up in October in Lake Tahoe. So get on worldschoolacademy.com for the list of adventures and trips. We're doing a couples trip to Thailand. We're doing that adventure trip in October in Lake Tahoe, and another one in the mountains near Las Vegas in the spring. U.S. history trip. But we're gonna do. Oh, you guys, I'm so stoked. We're gonna take our whole family. The plan is to take our whole family to China, into a monastery there, and study martial arts and Mandarin. And then go back again to Mongolia, because we love Mongolia so much, and we're going to invite other families to come over. But we're going to be getting together more and more often. And I love getting together with you. I love learning with you and from you, and then love sharing these ideas in this super impactful in-person literally life-changing. I know it's kind of cliche to say, but it is. These things are life-changing, and we facilitate these experiences. So it's like this coaching experience, this transformation experience, where you do a lot of like these activities where we connect with each other in powerful and profound ways and build these friendships and relationships, but then we get to go away and approach life differently, do life better. Oh, I love this stuff. So we are going to get together more and more often. But if we were together right now talking through these things, it would be so insightful for all of us to say, what emotional pain have you or are you experiencing? Right, and to go around and listen to each other. And I have this privilege of speaking often and teaching and mentoring and coaching. I'm doing more and more coaching. And it's so fun to just stop, to get in a quiet space, and just where we're open and authentic and vulnerable, and we can settle down. Because it's so noisy. Life is so noisy and so busy. It often it blinds us out. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because we're not handling the emotional pain well. And we're not, even if it's not emotional pain, but just some kind of agitation, some kind of irritation, just emotion even that we're not even really processing. And we just go. And like, we're sitting there like, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel where I want to be. And so few of us just will stop and say, well, okay, what's unsettling here? What's happening? And it would be so insightful for all of us to hear each other. And I get to hear it tons. And so it gives me, I have this advantage of like all this insight that I get from learning as we're doing coaching. But so many of us are just agitated and tortured. We're just wound up so tight. And we get into this spot of, it's intense. You know, people use metaphors like, you know, they're so wound up, so tight around an axle, right? They're just about to snap. Or they're, you know, you can use all kinds of metaphors. Like it's a string. It's being pulled on and stretched on so much it's about to snap. And or it's just being crushed. Some people use like I feel like this weight is just crushing me, or I have this pain, this burning. One of my favorite metaphors, this imagery is so powerful to me. It's like these just burning rocks that we're trying to hold on to, and they're just torturing us. So for whatever reason there's emotional pain, it most likely has happened often in your life. And the vast majority of people I talk with are dealing with something right now. Like let that sink in. That's amazing. So statistically, or not even statistically, but just because we're on this human journey, most of you right now are probably facing some kind of emotional pain. And it can be from something current or something in the past. It can be for something you're carrying with you inside of you, or, you know, something that's happening in life. Just the trials and struggles and hurt. So what do you do with it? Many people avoid it. In fact, I would say the vast majority of people avoid it. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to go there. They don't want to address it. They don't want to acknowledge it. And either consciously or unconsciously, some people choose to avoid, like they know they are consciously avoiding that subject or that idea or that pain. They know, like, nope, I'm steering clear of that. I'm not going to touch it. and they'll bury it. They'll shove it down inside them. Right? Another metaphor here. That you see them just pushing that thing down, and anytime it kind of tries to come to the surface, almost as though we use our hands, this image, as though it's coming up to our head, right? They just shove it back down in the gut. And interestingly, it can cause physical pain. This is what blows me away. It's so powerful. Like emotional turmoil and pain can cause physical pain. You see it manifested a lot with people have back pain and stomach pain around these emotional issues, around these stressors, right? And so they avoid it. And unconsciously, sometimes people aren't even aware that they're just constantly what's called buffering, or these avoidance patterns, where they are just perpetually and habitually avoiding the resolution and the processing of the emotional pain. Does that make sense? And man, it would be so fun to have this discussion together. Like, what do you turn to? What do you see the people around you turning to? And what are you doing to buffer? Whenever you feel some kind of emotional pain, either from something you've been carrying, something that's in the past, or when it comes up, when there's emotional pain that just kind of appears in your life through this journey of life, what do you do? What do you turn to? And again, that would be incredibly insightful for all of us to hear each other say, what are the things we turn to? And a great majority of people turn to food. Let that one sink in, right? They buffer with food. They go, anytime there's emotional pain with a spouse, they go right to the kitchen. With their child, with their family members, to the kitchen. Right? And there's a lot of emotional buffering with food for lots of different reasons. Some people are stress eaters. They're even happiness eaters. Like they're whatever emotion, boom, turn to the food. They are pain eaters. And so they turn to food as a buffer. Many people turn to entertainment as a buffer. They go right to the TV, right to the music. It's interesting. I see this so much. Like many people will not. We're tempted to say the word cannot, but it's will not is more appropriate. They will not handle silence. They gotta create noise, because the silence allows the emotion to come up, the issue to kind of come up, which is a really good thing, and we'll get to that in a minute. It's a really, really good thing to have that come up. But it's painful. It hurts. It's kind of disturbing, right? You got to face it. You got to process it, and no, shove that back down. And so we create noise. So we turn to noise. We turn to music. We turn to entertainment. We're constantly movies. Sometimes it's just scrolling. We'll just do something just to distract the mind, to distract the emotions. We don't want any of that processing. So we turn to these addictions. On the extreme end of this buffering and these avoidance patterns, there's a lot of people turning to drugs, turning to alcohol, turning to pornography, turning to some kind of addiction that momentarily assuages the pain, right? Or numbs it. They turn to numbing. Some people turn off their emotions. They literally subconsciously or consciously go numb. And you see this pattern, they just numb out. Others they turn to extreme behaviors. From being total adrenaline junkies to being super angry or super reactive, right? And again, it's so important for all of us to understand this. We have to understand this. So, please share this. Please share this with everyone. I feel so confident. This is part of the human experience, And yet we're never trained or taught how to process emotional pain, how to process, even if it's not painful, just strong, intense emotions. We've not been given the tool set and the skill set and the mindset and the heart set to handle and process all this stuff. And so we're suffering needlessly. And those behaviors affect us and they affect others a lot. And so you might have people in your family, people at work, people in your school or studies or in your groups, whatever, that you're seeing these extreme behaviors, right? You're seeing all this, just intense behaviors or patterns or whatever, and we forget sometimes when we're interacting with other humans that a lot of that it's a response to emotional pain. Does that make sense? So when people, you might see them acting or behaving or reacting a certain way to you or independent of you, either way, but we need to remember, hey, wait a minute, it's probably pretty likely that there's some emotional pain that they're reacting to. And if they'll process that and get through it, it changes everything. Man, and I see this when I do marriage coaching, and these are with great couples and couples. You guys, when I'm doing the marriage coaching and life coaching, sometimes we get this thing oh, that's only for people who are broken or really bad or have told. It's not. It's for everybody. It's literally for everybody. For great people, just awesome people, the best of you. It's you guys. It's for everybody. But they're struggling with something the marriage has just been tense and difficult for years, and then you find out, oh, wait a minute, one of the spouses has been wound up so tight with this emotional turmoil or pain that's been causing all these behaviors that had nothing to do with the marriage. And it wasn't the spouse's fault. And sometimes the spouse is oh, it must be me, it's my fault, I'm causing all this problems. And it's well, wait a minute, no, it's there's some emotional pain here that has to be processed. And this is when coaching especially, and sometimes counseling, can be so helpful, extraordinarily helpful. Because good coaches and good counselors give the tools to process the emotional pain. Right? And the practice. Because you guys, it's a skill that takes practice to get really good at it. It's something we need to be practicing all the time. And ideally, when we're raising children, our children are being taught how to process emotional pain. We're modeling for them how to do it, right? And we're teaching them. We're articulating. We're doing our family discussions and devotionals. And we're teaching them how to process emotional pain. Which is interesting. A lot of families, they avoid it. The parents are processing, struggling with it, and they don't even talk about it. They don't bring it up. They have a financial issue or a behavioral issue, or something's hurting in the marriage, something's hurting in the extended family, something in the neighborhood, whatever, the church, whatever. And the parents don't talk about it with the kids. They keep it all hush hush. But the kids are aware, man. They can feel it. And so the kid even starts to have all this emotional pain. Nobody talks about it. Nobody brings it up. Nobody gives them tools or resources to process it. And so as a child do, from an early age, they start buffering. They start these avoidance patterns. They start burying these emotions and you can't bury something like that. It doesn't go away. Just you shove it down there doesn't mean it goes away. It starts to cause problems in there. Right? Is this sinking in, man? This stuff is so powerful. It's so powerful. And everybody needs to hear this and understand it, wrap their minds around it. And they say, what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? And the great news is there's so much we can do about it. So much we can do about it. Now, luckily for me, see, I didn't know this cognitively. I didn't know this when I was a young man, and I was hurting. Oh my goodness, I had so much emotional pain from my massive insecurities and fears and doubts, and from the struggles I was having just with life, from decisions people had made that affected me, from this struggle of journey and timidity and discouragement and hopelessness and just all the negative crap that was happening by living in rough neighborhoods and trying to survive on my own at like 16, 17, 18, and then trying to interact with other human beings and not knowing how to do that and trying to succeed and then falling flat on my face and failing at all these different things, right? Whatever it was, there were so many struggles there, and I was being crushed under the weight of the emotional pains around all these challenges and obstacles, and I didn't know it at the time, but I needed this outlet, right? And I couldn't even have articulated it. But looking back now, I see, like, I got into weightlifting. Everyone around me, like, in these certain situations, like, when I was living in these tough areas, all the people around me, now looking back, they were all buffering. Oh my goodness, they were all in these patterns, these emotional patterns of, there was domestic violence, and there was tons of alcohol and drugs and sexual behaviors and perversions and like crime, and just constant fighting, and I mean just crazy stuff, all these crazy behaviors that we see happening again and again and again and again. Like, they were all just buffering. They all came from this place of hurt. Many of them had grown up in rough situations, experienced great tragedies. The stories I saw and heard and experienced myself, oh man, I just feel so sad. And nobody had the tools or the resources or even the acknowledgement or understanding of what was happening. And it was just surrounded by it. But I was, looking back now, I was like, oh, I just need this outlet, and I didn't want to turn to any of that junk because it doesn't help. None of that helps. It gives you this momentary distraction or numbness, or it assuages the pain for a little bit, but it just masks it. It doesn't help. So fortunately, I had the kind of awareness as a young man. I'm like, I don't want to do that crap. What am I going to do? And so I really got into fitness and exercise, and like I would go work out so hard. And now I see, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I was turning to weights and exercise is this way to release all this emotion, all this pain and anger. And guys, when you're crazy angry like that, when you're just angry at the world and at life and yourself and other people, you get a really great workout. It is awesome. And that's actually one of the first things I want to share. Vigorous, intense physical exercise is actually a really phenomenal emotional processing tool. It really does. It releases so much of it. And even better, like if you can take it out on a boxing bag or something. And I got into martial arts. I got into boxing. I got into kickboxing. And I loved it. And that was so good for me emotionally. Aside from all the physical benefits, that was so good for me emotionally. I needed that. I didn't know I needed it, but now that I understand all this and I've studied, psychology and human performance and all these like actual tools and strategies to release and process emotional pain, that's one of them. So if you can fit that into your world, the vigorous exercise, releasing all that physical stress and tension, and maybe you don't even think you need it. Like, it might not be there, but you get in there and you start going for a real good run, or a real great workout, or you get some martial arts or something. Whoa, just let that out. Oh, it's so good. So even when you think you don't need it, like, get in there and let it out, and you'll find afterwards you feel fantastic. Now, interestingly, these real calming practices, meditation and yoga, are also extremely helpful, and they're the opposite, right? One's super crazy intense, and the other one is deliberately very peaceful. And you stretch into it, and that also is very releasing. So I would say the combination of both. Get those into your life. Other great strategies are writing. Now, some of you will choose to journal, and some will just write. And writing is an excellent outlet. And some of the things you write, you may want to keep. Many of the things you write when you're processing emotional pain, you'll probably want to destroy. Just get it out. Get the ugly out on paper. You got to have this outlet. Just get it all out there. It's almost like you're vomiting pain and hurt and ugly, and just write it down, man. If it's in there, just write it down. Get it out. And as you're doing this, you guys, as you're processing pain, it's going to stir things up. And it's going to bring up a lot of the things that you've been avoiding. And you've been avoiding them, with good reason, because it hurts and it's ugly when it comes up. And it's like you're reliving all that pain and suffering and turmoil. And many of you right now might be like, why in the world would I do that? Are you crazy? Why am I going to process that again? Why am I going to bring that up? Why am I going to stir up these things? Let's just lock them away in the cellar and leave them there forever. Well, they don't just sit down there dormant and inactive. They cause problems. They actually prevent you from being your best self. They prevent you from engaging in life fully. Let that settle in, please. Let that just kind of sit with you. If we don't process the emotional pain, it will prevent you from really living. I want that to hit home. And you and I avoid those things that need to be worked through. They cause us, they force us to hold back in relationships, in our marriages, in our parenting, in engaging with other people, in attempting and trying to pursue something, to engage with something, to experience something. It literally limits the capacity to have certain experiences that are awesome. It's limiting your life. And so, yes, we need to process through that. And yes, it's going to be ugly and painful. And that's got to come up. Nobody likes to vomit, man. But when you vomit, you feel way better. Same's true with these emotions. There has to be some vomiting. We've got to get the poison out of the gut, so to speak, and out of the heart, and out of the mind. We got to get that all out of there, so that and you feel better afterwards. Like if you've ever thrown up because you ate something nasty, it's got to come out, and then you feel better. Same, we got to get that out of there, and let go of it. Let go of that dadgum thing. We hold on to it, and you guys, I could go on for hours and hours here, like all the experiences and the coaching, and just because I work with so many people for so many years across so many countries, like the stories and experiences are almost unlimited. But we've got to let those go. And as I worked with good people, they feel like, but how can I let that go? I have to hold. They did that. He did that, or she did that, or I did that. How can I let go of that? I got to hold on to it. And we feel like to rationalize or justify, or to feel some sense of justice, we feel like we have to hold on to it. But it just tortures us. Right? That quote I've shared before that has been so powerful for me is that bitterness is a poison that you swallow hoping your enemy will die. Right? That bitterness, it only hurts you. And in many instances, forgiveness is not for the other person. In fact, it almost has nothing to do with the other person. It's for you. Forgiveness is for you. It doesn't undo the wrong, and it doesn't liberate the other person. In some instances it does. But in most instances, forgiveness isn't liberating the other person from what they've done. It's removing the pain from you. And so let it come out. Like, work through it. And maybe if you've had some rough experiences in the past, or you're struggling with some things, this may take a while. You might have to do it often. Some of you might want to write a little bit every day, or every other day. Regularly, just process things. It's got to come out. Some of you will find value in talking it out, but a fair warning here, and I've mentioned this in other things, but I just want to share it again. Fair warning here, like you probably don't want to share this with people And that's why I recommend taking it out on paper. Get it out on paper, not on people. Because sometimes when we vomit up our stuff to others, we might think, oh, I'm going to tell my friend, I need to tell my friend all this stuff. We vomit all over them, and then we feel better, and they feel just covered in nasty. And you might be like, man, I feel so much better. But now they're like tainted, and we just handed all this crap to them. And that can be really harmful. Now, in some instances, yeah, it's great to talk to your friends, to talk to a coach especially is a great place to do that. A counselor, some trusted advisor. You might need to process some of that vocally with a person and do that. But like, and sometimes with your friends, you sit down like, hey, I just got to talk this out, and that's okay. But be careful with that, please. Just a warning there. Be really careful with that. You might end up like dumping all your emotional turmoil on someone else, and now they have to process through. But some of it, get it out on paper and get rid of it. I know this. I worked with this one wonderful lady, just super awesome. She'd written all this crap in her journals for years and years and years and years and years and years, and just was holding on to it. And it was all this just hurt and pain from relationships and marriage and parenting and insecurity, all this stuff. And she realized one day when we were kind of coaching through it, she's like, "Oh my goodness, like I got to get rid of these. Like I'm literally getting it all into my journals and now holding on to my journals and like just keeping those as like this record of the injustices." She's like, it's actually keeping the bitterness. And so she chose of her own accord to shred them all. Just take those pages out, shred them, and be done with it. Let them go. It's so freeing, so emotionally freeing to get that all out. So those are just a couple things. But talk. Just you might just go out and just talk. You might walk and talk, and there's nobody there, and you're just talking. You can talk to God, and you can just or talk to the wind. Whatever, just get it out. And again, these and turn to good, healthy things. And let it come up, let it process it, let it go. Literally, like, see yourself, visualize yourself, just letting it go. And as it comes up again, and eventually, like, the idea is to get rid of the emotional pain. And I want to share my story that I was able to do that. I was literally able to completely let it go. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that for kicks and giggles or whatever to try to impress anybody but like I let it go. And so these issues that cause me so much pain, so much hurt, so much trauma, no more. Like you can bring it up and I'm like, yep, I'm good. It doesn't stir up any pain, any issues, any hurt, any remembrance. Like I can't be like, oh, don't talk about that. Ah! It's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And like I processed it. I literally let it go from my life. So it used to be, you mentioned somebody's name who had done something, and I was tormented. I'm not any longer. I can think of that person. I can see them. I could even interact with them. And I'm good. Because I processed it. I let it go. Right? And that's an ideal that we seek for. It may not happen right away. It may not happen for a long time with some of you if you've really experienced something painful. But it can happen. And if I can do it, you can do it. And I just want to share that. Like this is such a healing message. And I want to encourage you, practice this skill of processing your emotions. What do you do? The big question is, what do you do with emotional pain? Like there's some tools there's some resources. And if you've got more of it and you want to process it, do some coaching with us. Get in our monthly coaching with School of Awesome Sauce, if you're not in there, or just sign up with some coaching with me. But don't avoid it. Don't bury it. Don't act like it's not there. Like do something with it. That's helpful and healthy, and turn to things that actually dramatically improve your life and then give you emotional strength instead of weakness, and peace and freedom, right? Oh, you feel like just shouting, freedom, right? We got to have that. We got to have that emotionally, and we can, and we should. And it's possible. It's available to us, but we got to work for it with all great things. We got to work for it. We got to earn it. And we got to learn the skills and abilities and practice them and become emotional masters. So when I teach these courses on emotional mastery, right? Like that's the point. You're pursuing mastery. as with all great things, it takes tremendous effort and practice. So let's do it, you guys. Let's get in there. It's totally possible. It's totally possible to break free from the emotional pain and the turmoil and process it and handle it in a really great way instead of buffering and avoiding and getting in these patterns that are super destructive and limiting. We can actually be free and empowered to live our best self because, my friends, as I always say, awesome is always an option, and that is true with emotional pain and power. So let's do it. Reach upward. Hey everybody, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got a lot of value out of it and found some things that you can apply to your life right away. Hey, I'm being totally sincere when I say I live to help you live your extraordinary life. So I hope you'll reach out to me if you have any questions, or let me know how I can help you in any important area of your life. And in fact, this podcast is brought to you by the School of Awesome Sauce monthly coaching program. Take advantage of that. Get in there. It's the best way to get a breakthrough to the next level so you can level up your health, your spirituality, your emotions, your mind, your relationships, your finances, business, every part of your life. Just get in there where you have a coach and a mentor. You have a supportive community to make things happen. So jump in there, take advantage of this, try it out, get in there with us, and level up your life. See you on the inside. Reach upward.